All right. Good morning, and welcome back to day 2 of Streaming Media East. Thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate it and hope you've had a good show so far, and we've got another great day ahead of us with sessions all day long, and we'll have a closing session at 4 o'clock back in this room with Andy Schuler from Netflix talking about how they made Bandersnatch work. So that's going to be a great way to wrap things up. Once again, I'd like to thank our sponsors for helping us make this possible. Our platinum sponsors, Red Pro 5, who you heard from yesterday, and MediaKind, who you'll hear from later this hour. Our gold sponsors, BitMoving, Intertrust, Lightcast, SeaChange, SimWave, Theo Technologies, and UI-Centric. And our executive sponsor, Google Cloud. And we've got many more sponsors than that, too numerous to name. So thanks to everyone for making this all possible. And thanks to the AV techs and the hotel techs and the room monitors and everyone else who makes shows like this run and don't often get appreciated. So let's give a round of applause to them as well. Once again, we do have some programming changes that are reflected on the website. streamingmedia.com/East, or in the Streaming Media East app, which is, if you haven't downloaded it yet, download an app called Hello Crowd, look for Streaming Media East, and the password to get into the app is app19. Once again, also the exhibit hall will be open until 4 o'clock today. That's where all the coffee breaks will be, and those coffee breaks are sponsored by Verizon Digital Media Services. The attendee Wi-Fi is still the Hilton Meeting Room Wi-Fi with the password Google Cloud. And there's some confusion about what the hashtag is for the show. In the program, it says Streaming East. On the slides, it's SM East. So let's stick with SM East for the hashtag for anyone who wants to post about the show on social media, which we certainly hope you do. We heard from a great keynote yesterday, Hulu, and we've got another one today. Cheddar is one of the undisputed success stories of the OTT era. And they've shown how innovative approaches to both content and distribution will distinguish the winners from the losers. It's gone from streaming a couple hours a day on Facebook Live to delivering thousands of hours of programming on every major video provider, from YouTube to Twitch, and a live linear channel on Hulu, and all sorts of other OTT services ending in vowels. And Cheddar was recently awarded for its success last week when Altice USA bought the company for $200 million. We're lucky today to have Melissa Rosenthal, Cheddar's Executive Vice President, here to talk about how Cheddar has bet big on OTT and live news. Please welcome Melissa Rosenthal.
Thank you for having me. So with the large shift in traditional TV consumption and millennials opting to cut the cord for better options, cheaper options, what does that mean for live television? Today we're going to take a look at how, along with the shift in consumption, that changes for media providers as well. And our bet with the growing need for on-demand and appointment viewing from Netflix and Hulu, there will also be a need for informative and educational content, window on the world type viewing. So we ask ourselves, what happens when it means when the end for television is actually the beginning? So we're living in a post-cable era. What does that mean? By all measures, it's a cataclysm. Young people are not watching TV. There are options out there that are $25 to $40 a month with YouTube TV and Hulu. And it just doesn't make sense for young people to be watching television. They have they're not spending $190 a month for 300 channels, of which 3 that they're actually watching. And what does that mean? That means things are shifting in a major way. And even for prime time, when you look, it's pretty astounding when you actually look at the numbers and the median ages for the top shows on prime time. The youngest is 47 years old. So even in their most highly rated hours, young people are not watching television. And when it comes to the subset of TV, and we're looking at business news, the competitors are old and stuffy. And even a deeper look into that, the incumbent networks are reaching old, retired people. And we took a look at that, and our big bet was that young people would want to be educated and informed about what's happening in the business world and in technology and media. And the conventional wisdom is that they wouldn't. There was just no interest there. But when we took a look at the numbers, these people are eventually going to die, and they're not reaching new people. And we thought that there was just a huge opportunity to reprogram and reboot business news for a younger demographic. And the projection speaks for itself. 39% of US households by 2020 will not have traditional cable boxes. And when you think about that, that's the existing households that are going to get rid of their cable boxes. And there's also the cord nevers. Those are the Gen Z folks who will never have heard of a cable box in their life. They'll never touch one, and the idea of one will just seem completely archaic and in the past. And live news isn't what it used to be. With the rise of streaming services like Netflix and Hulu and appointment viewing, the incumbent live news networks haven't changed. They haven't adopted their models at all. They haven't thought about reprogramming. By all measures, they're holding their breath and praying that what they continue to do will work, and ignoring the fact that thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people a year are cutting the cord. So we believe that there are two possible bets. One, the future will be all on demand and also short-form social content. So along with the dramas and comedies that you're going to binge watch on Hulu and Netflix, you're also going to then watch shitty short-form videos in your Facebook feed and Twitter feed, and that will be the entirety of your consumption of content. But we don't believe that, because you didn't wake up last year and say, I want to watch 30-second videos that are completely terrible with the sound off, and then also watch news that tells me what I should be thinking. So our bet is, if the entire TV landscape is changing, what happens to live news? And our bet here is that live, linear, ambient, window on the world type content gets rebooted for an audience under 60 years old. And that's, our bet was focused on business news, but it expands way beyond business news now. Why shouldn't every single live television network and channel be rebooted for younger people? So enter Cheddar. Cheddar is proof that news and culture are alive and that young people care about it. We decided to bet on the fact that, along with the appointment viewing, there will be a need for that live, linear, ambient window on the world, and that young people care about the brands that they're using and the services they're using. And for instance, Uber for them is it's not just a service that gets them from point A to point B. They care about the integrity of the company. They care about what they're doing with their data. They care about the markets. They care about finances in a way that has never been communicated to them before. So our bet was that this needed to shift. And there are several ways to do that in a post-cable era, but it certainly isn't putting the same old people on air every day and having panels of men, speak for 5 hours about one topic. It needs to be diverse. It needs to change the format. You need to be young and vibrant. And we built the cable, network of the future to do that. So what are the keys to success? How do you build a media company that's focused on the future and not the past? Reach a young and highly coveted audience. So we needed to find the sweet spot of who would be watching this. And it really is the people that are making financial decisions. They're climbing the ranks in their respective companies. The conventional wisdom was that millennials are living in their parents' basements ordering pizza at night. And maybe that's true, but there's a whole subset of them that are making a lot of money, that have disposable income, that are working in jobs where they're senior directors and vice presidents. And we wanted to reach those people. and make sure they're tuning in live each month. You have to create content that's sticky enough where they're coming back, where they feel like they can turn it on, and at any given moment, they're watching what's happening in the world. And our goal is not to be that appointment viewing where you are tuning in for a half hour and you are watching that for an entire half hour. But you should be able to have it on in the background and look up and know exactly what's happening with X company or Y company, or what company is the future of X industry. And that was the goal when we started this. So we've reinvented business news and news for the modern audience across three channels rather. So Cheddar proper, which is our business and our business news network, we reach 25 to 35-year-olds in a way where we're talking to them about what's changing in the financial markets, how to make different purchasing decisions, the entrepreneurs who are the disruptors of today and tomorrow. And we're talking them to in a way where we're educating and informing them, but not talking down to them. And that was sort of our big bet. And then we looked at the ecosystem and we thought, why can't CNN be disrupted? It shouldn't be scary to tune into the news every single day and watch just the horrors and atrocities that are going on. News can be uplifting. It can educate and inform you in a way that isn't terrifying. And there's no need to cover Barbara Bush's funeral for 7 hours. We just felt like there was a better way to do it. So we wanted to program a news channel in which there was a wheel-type format of live, trending, headline news, health, weather, and then moose on the loose. Everyone likes a moose on the loose, or a baby penguin and a puffin having a baby. This is local news with a national news sentiment, and we believe that all of this could be programmed to reboot the news format. So when you tune in for 15 minutes, you're going to get everything that you need to know about what's going on in the world, and then you can move on with your day. You don't need to watch this for 5 hours. And that was kind of the difference in methodology between a CNN and a Cheddar News. Cheddar News, we're okay if you tune in and out. CNN, they need to keep you captured for 5 or 6 hours. But we just felt like that wasn't the future of the way that young people are going to be wanting to consume news. Cheddar U. An interesting thing is the way and where people are consuming. We consider ourselves platform agnostic, but we're always looking to find new ways to reach people. So we acquired Cheddar U from Viacom, MTVU from Viacom in August. And what that is it's a closed circuit college network of 650 campuses across the US with 1,600 screens, reaching 39,000 average minute audience of college students, where they're a captive audience. It was playing music videos before, and we saw a huge opportunity to reprogram that network full of content that would actually be meaningful to them. So thinking outside of the box of, hey, we're on these distribution platforms, how do we expand? And out-of-home is a very interesting area for us, and building our own out-of-home network was even more interesting. So outside of kind of reaching the business audience, the new age business audience and the new age news audience, how do we reach the entrepreneurs of tomorrow? And that was through Cheddar U. And creating a window on the world was a very strategic decision. Our real estate is not happenstance. When we went into the industry, we wanted it to feel like you weren't just tuning in and watching a green screen. When you looked up, at any given moment, that would be the window on the world of where you were viewing it. So we have our flagship New York Stock Exchange post right next to CNBC, coincidentally, and we are the second largest post there, and you can see all of the action of what's happening on the floor, the days of the biggest IPOs, where they're covering it, sometimes in 360. We're pretty innovative in the way that we cover the markets. We have our WeWork partnership, which is a national partnership in which we can pop up a local studio in any city in the US with WeWork. So we're able to do that on a shoestring budget, and the real estate is incredible. So our first studio was on Sunset and Vine. We capture Hollywood from an entrepreneurial angle. A lot of these actors and actresses are now working with streaming sites. We interview them about that, how they're kind of expanding their empires outside of just being actors. Everyone is now kind of a business mogul, and it's a pretty interesting time in Hollywood. And then we have the Flatiron Building, which is our Silicon Alley studio. So we are right at the heart of Silicon Alley. We have Twitter executives on, Facebook executives, right in the heart of Madison Park. So we have the beautiful view of the park. But every time you tune into Cheddar, you feel like you're somewhere, and that was really important to us. Journalists. So in order to be representative of your audience, you have to have people that look like your audience. So when we looked at who we wanted to actually be conveying the news to the Cheddar audience, we took the best and the brightest from the incumbent networks who never would have gotten a shot on air. All of the people that have their seats are making $40 million a year, and they're not going anywhere unless they die or they retire or they're ousted for other reasons. So we picked the youngest people that we believed had a shot at being the future. And they are diverse and they're young and representative of the people that we want watching our network. And guest representation. So we book about 50 to 60 guests every single day across multiple industries. We believe that our audience is interested in all of these industries from a business perspective. So all of the lens that we capture this from is from a technological lens, so an entrepreneurial lens. Gwyneth Paltrow has an empire, right? So when we interviewed her, it was about how do you make the transition from actor to media to mogul, and what did that look like for you? So there's a lot of crossover between what we see in the entertainment space and what we see in the technology space, business is flourishing, and it's a really interesting time to be capturing kind of how all of these things are cross-pollinating. So we're doing almost 20 hours a day on a shoestring budget. That was another thing. Anyone could do what we're doing, and I think the self-awareness of that is something that drove us. Anyone could pick up tomorrow and try to create a Cheddar. We don't have proprietary technology. We're building a cable channel. So how do we do that? We do it on a shoestring budget. So we did 20 hours a day with 180 people, and it's just a testament to doing it more lean than anyone else can, moving faster than anyone else can, not letting red tape stop us, making decisions, doing programming in a way that would make anyone else's head spin. And I think that's what really separates us from any other network. It's the ability to make decisions very quickly and spin things up in a matter of hours, if not days. That was sort of the mission of what we built the company on. It's that tomorrow we could have a competitor that will completely kill us, but can they if we move faster than them? And distribution where people under 60 actually watch. So our big bet was on OTT. We knew when we started the company that Sling was going to have a slew of competitors in the future, and that it likely would not be the only OTT service. So we took our bet there. But in reality, we're platform agnostic. We believe that we should be where our viewers are and not have to have them find us. So in addition to owning our own college cable network, we're also on gas stations. We also have an audio simulcast. You have to be where your viewers are. Having to expect them to tune in and type in, channel 221, which we are on channel 221. But expecting them to do that is just archaic. So our whole thought process on strategic distribution was to be agnostic and not only have a really strong strategy on OTT, but also have a really strong social strategy, a complementary social strategy. And how did we do that? We built gadget videos. I don't know if any of you follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, but our social strategy is very strategic. We took what we knew we could do really well, which was create videos, short form videos around technology and gadgets, and we built a marketing funnel through that. So it doesn't stray too far from what we cover on a live basis, but we knew just simply cutting up the live video and sticking it on social, that wasn't a winning strategy. So this became very much a top of the funnel marketing strategy for us. And then when people would access us or encounter us on their OTT systems, they'd say, oh, I know Cheddar from those gadget videos, and it works. Another key to not dying as a new entrant in this space is just to never stop innovating. Throughout our few years of building this company so far, the key was to never stop innovating. We were constantly thinking about what we could disrupt next. QVC, we did an entire program with Amazon where we did a live millennial version of QVC in their studios, selling products through a carousel located next to our live stream, and we were able to do that for pennies compared to what it would take anyone else to do. So, innovation is a huge part of how we've expanded and how we've grown over the past few years, and understanding where you can win and how to double down in that area. So we knew that, for us, the green space was daytime programming. We could win in daytime programming. And when we thought about how do we keep innovating and expanding into prime time, we knew that us competing with any sort of primetime viewership or competing with a Hulu or a Netflix was not where we wanted to play or not where we could win. So we decided to go into esports, something that we had been covering for 3 years that we believed had a huge potential. It was already huge, but no one was covering it from all kind of culturally relevant angles outside of just streaming. So we decided to double down in esports, and what went from several segments a day expanded into 5 days of coverage, an hour a day, 5 times a week, and this is what it looks like.
To be an esports athlete, to be as successful as I've been, it's a dream come true.
Because it's Cheddar, it's the future of sports.
Once I'm done streaming for a living, I think I'll probably just play video games. Maybe I'll stream that. Who knows? We'll see.
This is going to be a great time.
And of course, Zane Van Sally in the corner.
This is a group of amateur players that kind of came out of nowhere.
They have so much team cohesion.
Vote. It's golden ball. I'm always hot. But people sorry. Today on the table, see?
Hello?
I'm here at the NBA 2K leagues.
Love to dip into games like Overcooked or Gang Beasts and maybe a little bit of Overwatch.
Always wanted to create a video game. Always wanted to create a video game console.
Bring me my food, I'm hungry.
What matters is the real world impact.
So we are at the forefront of esports. We've made a huge bet on it. We are at every relevant tournament. We have built out an entire studio on the 26th floor of our building to capture esports. We have a gaming cave. We've hired people from the esports industry. It's an area where we knew that we could enter and win. We stream live on Twitch every single day that we're broadcasting live, and we keep innovating and iterating. And the difference between our coverage and kind of watching Twitch is that we focus on culture, we focus on community, and we focus on competition. So it is really a sports center for esports, which doesn't currently exist. And conventional wisdom there was, how do you expect people to go from business news network to esports at night? And we said, why not? We're still covering this from a technological standpoint. There's still an aspect of business. And you know what? Business people want to know what the big thing is. And we believed it was esports. So there's no reason that you need to have something that, where we needed to cover business news all night. So our foray into prime time was with esports. And we keep innovating there. And, we plan on further doubling down on that with expanding to 2 hours a day come the summer. So, our coverage is only the beginning. We've been doing this for a couple of months, but we've seen great success. So I've gone through how do you innovate as a media company in an age where people aren't watching cable television, but how do you innovate with advertising? So I don't come from the world of 15 or 30-second spots. I don't remember the last 15 or 30-second spot I've watched in the past, I don't know how many years. I don't even know if I've watched one. I can't even recall that. So my approach to advertising from day one was, how do you integrate brands in a meaningful way that capture your audience's attention, that doesn't detract from what they actually came to your network to watch? And the way that we did that is we integrate brands thoughtfully and natively within our programming. So each week we will have certain segments that we collaborate on with our partners. We integrate them very deeply into the content, but it seems natural. We're overt with the branding, so our viewers know exactly what they're watching, but it's educational, it's informative, and there's a takeaway. This isn't a 15-second piece of content. This is something that's 2 to 5 minutes, but there's a message, there's a point to it. And the goal is that they leave that with a positive impression of that brand, or they learn something from that brand. And the next time they're going to make a purchasing decision, they're going to think of that brand. And here's an example of something we just did with Reebok. We do a 30-minute weekly show on the intersection of entrepreneurship and hip-hop. So we have on all of the biggest hip-hop kind of social media stars, but we talk about how business plays a huge role in their careers and what they're doing. We integrate them throughout the entire show. We work with Reebok to program the guests. It's editorial in nature, but Reebok has a very strong presence. We do live shoots with them. We talk to their talent. They're heavily connected. It's just an integrated program that makes sense for our audience and makes sense for the Reebok brand. And it's no surprise that when you work on something where you're conveying a message and where you're actually informing and educating your audience rather than taking away from what they came to watch, you're going to see lift. And you're going to see lift over time as you consistently integrate within something. And I will lastly leave you with a couple of things. So growing this business, every single platform that we wanted to do a media partnership with would tell us, okay, we like what you're doing, but you're going to change it 100% for our platform. We're going to create this show that has nothing to do with what you're actually doing, but we're going to pay you a couple $1 million to do it. And what we say to them is that we will make what we want to make and we'll change it 10% for you. Because at the end of the day, you're going to kill this program. It's going to take away from us building our own company, and we're going to commoditize our content in the process of doing so. And the goal of that is to control your own destiny. We've seen so many times that the programs have incentive misalignment. They're killed after one term. All of these media companies that have made big bets on Facebook Watch have some pretty sad outcomes. And it just never ends well. With Facebook changing their products daily, you see these deals be killed after one term and companies go out of business. So our whole stance has been never to kind of allow ourselves to take these bigger deals with the platforms that don't make sense for the content that we're creating. And that was a stance that was really hard to take as a new company. But once you take that and you're strong about it, it works out well. And it's really, read the rest of the book. So there's an episode of The Twilight Zone where the aliens come down and they hand people a book that says to serve man, and everyone gets really excited. And they're like, oh, they're here to serve us. And that's sort of the way that Facebook kind of treats you. And then it's read the rest of the book.
Mr. Chambers! Mr. Chambers! Don't get on that ship! The rest of the book, To Serve Man, it's a cookbook!
So the book is actually a cookbook, which is very similar to the way that we feel about the way that large platforms want to partner with media companies. And then this is an example of what I believe Facebook does to the newsfeed. So we are the broccoli, and we're surrounded by Pop-Tarts and Snickers. And when you're looking through the aisle and you see broccoli next to Snickers, what are you going to pick? You're going to pick Snickers. And that's the way the news feed works. So you can have substantive content that's informative and educational next to cats jumping upside down and a guy doing a belly flop off of a diving board. And that just isn't going to work for the type of content that we were producing. So alongside not doing these long-term deals, we also kind of looked at the news feed and said, this isn't where we need to be. And why neighborhooding and being next to relevant news sources and relevant companies is so important. And this was the big reason why we made the shift. We were broadcasting on Facebook Live when we first started, and we realized that this just can't be the future of the way that people are consuming content. And you can see where we are neighborhooded next to all of our competitors, all of the relevant channels on all of these OTT systems. And we believe this is the future of content distribution. It's not it's finding relevant content where you are, where a lot of the other platforms don't do that. So my final thoughts. The incumbents only stay asleep for so long. We are confident in the company we built, but we know that anyone can spin up a media company tomorrow to compete with us. And go back. And they have. I mean, we see these articles every week where another company is announcing at their new fronts that they're going to become the next Cheddar. And we're aware of that. And I think the biggest mistake a company can make is to ignore that and think that they're so far ahead of everyone else that they don't have to worry about people catching up with them. And we don't take that stance. But live news isn't easy. You can see what Yahoo's doing. Yahoo Finance came out and said that they were going to try to compete with us, and I think they're doing exactly what CNBC is doing. And Vice tried to do a live news network, and they canceled it within a couple of months. So it goes to the fact that we move really fast. We need to be rigorous. We need to keep innovating and think about what's next. And that's the way that you build a media company in 2019 and make sure that you don't end up in a fire sale to another company that you don't want to be sold to. So. Thank you so much. And I think we have time for a couple questions if anyone has them.
Great, absolutely. Yeah, we do. Any questions for Melissa? Jose will bring the mic to you over there, Dan.
right over here.
So your business model currently is, of course, looking for a group of people who need content in kind of a different fashion from the traditional. Looking ahead 10 years, 20 years, if everything goes well, that group is possibly going to change how they approach things, and the new group coming in is going to have kind of a different attitude towards how they want to consume news. Have you kind of thought about keeping the audience you're trying to build now and being able to grow the audience with whatever the next group wants?
Yeah, I mean, and I think like our acquisition of MTV Campus Network was like a first stepping stone into what that would look like, and also programming esports, right? Like our esports audience isn't the 25 to 35-year-olds that we're reaching on our business network. It's just not. It's more 13 to 19. So it's a first step into programming for what that audience is looking to, that audience is interested in. But I think that audience is smarter. They are way more informed. They've had the internet since birth. And I think thinking about now what's happening in the world and the way that they're consuming content, they're a lot more educated and interested in things earlier on. So I think the content that we're creating now for the 25 to 35 to 40-year-olds, I think will still be relevant, but we are taking steps now to start programming for that younger demographic so that when they're making these decisions, we've already captured them. And I think those two steps were our first steps, but we're going to continue to innovate and make sure that we can capture Gen Z in every possible way.
Hi, my name is Jonathan. That was a fascinating presentation. I was wondering, do y'all cover live sports outside of esports?
We don't. So we'll do a roundup on our Cheddar news network of what's happening in sports, but we haven't gone into traditional sports. I don't know if that's an area we can really win, and I think it's pretty saturated. And if we were going to do that, it would need to be strategic and kind of a different type of thinking on how sports are covered. And that's why we went into esports, because we knew we could differentiate ourselves there, where there are issues with the rights and it's very expensive. And how do you fully separate yourself and compete in that ecosystem? And I think we haven't done it yet for those reasons. Not to say that we won't, but we wanted to go where we could win first.
Melissa, we have another question here.
So you talk about doing everything on a shoestring budget. How do you balance cost effectiveness versus quality of what you're putting out there?
It's challenging. It's every day we look at what we can do with the people we have and how we can expand with the people we have. We just started doing 7 to 9 a.m. And we didn't hire that many more people to do it. And I think it's a testament to the people that we have working for us. We've hired people that are very passionate about building this as the future of what it is. And a lot of the people that work in the incumbent networks that aren't hungry to build something like this, it doesn't work. I mean, we work 24/7. People are, it's a startup environment. And I think that's the way that we've been able to do it. Of course, if there's something technologically that we want to invest in, we make that investment strategically, but we've never bloated our company for that very reason. And it's figuring out the absolute maximum of what we can do with the individuals that we have, and then growing strategically as we've needed.
Question right here.
With the acquisition of Altice, how do you see Cheddar changing?
So I can't say that much, but I can say that Altice is a very forward-thinking company that understands that they need to diversify the media that they have, and I think with their properties, there's a lot that we can do in terms of distribution, expanding Cheddar distribution, working with them on their existing companies, and there's just a lot of opportunity for us to work very closely together in those capacities. Sorry, I can't say more, but.
All right, we have another question here.
Can you say a little bit more about your advertising format? I'm particularly interested to know how you get your advertisers to create content to fit your format as opposed to the 30-second or the 1-minute normal advertising.
So prior to this, I was running the global creative team at BuzzFeed, and we created a lot of really great native advertising products for our clients there. But one of the challenges that we had was that we were always trying to retrofit our the client's voice into what we were doing as a company and the tone of the company. And then also the work that it would take internally at the client and then also at the publisher level to create native advertising and co-branded content was just way too laborious. Like it didn't work. So what we did here was we tried to reinvent the model where a lot of the partners that we're working with, we're speaking to this audience and we're telling their story like this anyway. Everything that they want to say in market is something that is going to be of interest to our audience. So there's natural alignment between what they're marketing and then what our audience is looking to learn. That's the first piece of it. And then the second piece is that it's just very low lift. We're doing all of the production work. We're building out all of the segments. We take their input. They're collaborative with us. But the goal is to have it feel extremely low lift for them where we're building out as a natural editorial segment that they can help shape. Rather than we have to create this completely new co-branded piece of content that lives on social channels. So it's a bit of a different model, and it's been, of course, there's a learning curve, but I would consider it a loved up, more innovative version of what traditional sponsorships have been on business news networks. But it allows us to have the anchors involved. They know what they're saying. They know what they're trying to convey. We're able to showcase the brand's technology and how they're innovating in a way that many other news networks aren't doing. And we'll never compromise the integrity of our editorial or our journalists in a way that we're having them cover stories that they shouldn't be covering or having them not cover stories. But this church and state divide, it doesn't need to be as kind of cut and dry, and we've figured that out, and that's sort of how we've built the model.
Another question here in the back.
So when you streamed on on Amazon with the shopping channel model, was it a success for you, and would you continue to do so in the future?
I mean, we would consider it a success. We sold hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of products. We were able to, reach a completely new audience via Amazon. I think it allowed us to flex muscles that we've never been able to do before in a way that challenged us. And I think that we were definitely thinking of like how we can take that and create something completely new around it. I won't go into too much detail, but it was definitely a test that we thought was very successful, and it further further completed the thought that like we can reboot anything.
Another question right back here.
Hi. With such a diverse platform content provider you are, can you explain how the digital analytics and insights that you provide, because you've got digital, you run over the air. I'm just curious as to how you share that and make programming or advertising decisions based on that.
Yeah, so measurement in terms of the OTT space and the social space and the tradition, it's nowhere. There's really not one uniform measurement like a Nielsen or ComScore or, it's not there. So what we've done is we've used Cogent MSI, and they do it's their survey methodology, and they survey 4,000 people each month. And we're able to gain viewership habits. We're able to tell who's watching, the psychographics, demographics of who's watching our network, how long they're watching for, across all of our different hours. So that's how we've been able to do it so far. We tried to work with Nielsen day one, and they didn't have the capabilities of being able to work with us. And it's frustrating because being new is like a really exciting thing, but now you can't have full measurement across everything that you're doing. It's just kind of, the state of measurement in 2019 is not where I think we thought it would be. So we've found kind of makeshift ways of being able to measure, and Cogent's been a tremendous partner. CNBC uses them. A bunch of our advertisers said that we should be using them, and that's sort of why they're our measurement firm of choice.
We probably have time for one more quick question, if somebody has one.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Melissa.
Thank you guys for having me.